It was a question about a woman who had been divorced, and they divorced like last year. She found out that he was dating somebody throughout the end of their relationship. And now he's now engaged, has a baby on the way with the girl he was dating while they were married. And so now she's at a place of like depression and sadness. He's acting like he's in a whole new like family now that he's built with this woman he was cheating on her with. And she's just like, I'm at really, really low points right now. I don't know what to do. You know, she's seen me walk through a divorce. And so or walking through a divorce. And so she's like, how do you navigate that situation? Which kind of ties into what you're talking about with seeing a man with another, your dude with another woman, and then that messes with you. So what do you think about that?
So, I mean, it's tough. I've dealt with this with clients many times, and it's easier said than done. But ultimately, the woman has to understand, listen, if this man is not for you, then let him do whatever the hell he wants to do, because thank God you're not with him anymore. Like, you got to focus on the fact that you are being set free from a situation that was not best for you. And also understand that, because I know there's a lot of hurt from the idea of he was able to move on so fast. He was able to find a relationship so fast. Number one, understand that a lot of, and I'm not saying his situation could be genuine, right? But a lot of situations like that, they end up falling apart at some point anyway. What it looks like today is not what it will look like 2 years from now. So I see situations where the ex-wife or the soon-to-be ex-wife is hurt because the man's moving on. Oh, he has another woman already, about to be married. And I told him, like, yo, I can already see, because I have a sense of picking up on things with just looking at certain couples. And I was like, it's not going to work. Just, you'll see. Literally 2 years later, we're hearing stories of just all kinds of turmoil in that situation. And people have to understand, we live in a world now where a lot of things are so fake. There's a lot of people putting on all kinds of fake images on the internet and putting on a smile on their face, acting like things are all good that they're not. If you get caught up in what you see on the surface, you will drive yourself crazy. And this is where it goes back to, this is why you really got to plug more into the spirit, more into God, and focus on, okay, what do I need to be doing right now? What is going to be best for me? All right. He isn't best for you. You can't take your eyes off of that situation. You can't even concern yourself with that, because it serves you no purpose. What does dwelling on that do for that woman? Nothing. Nothing. And whether he gets with another woman or not, what does it do for you? Nothing. You got to put your energy on how you can become better and focus on healing. So I would highly encourage her to really just plug into healing right now and going through that process, and just really making an effort to not even look at that situation as much as possible.
Right. I would agree with that. I think that a lot of times I hate to say this, but a lot of people get so caught up in the show. I mean, we really do. We think that, there's people that will be, oh, I didn't see it. You didn't post it. So how do I know it's real? It's like, that is so superficial. I mean, if you've got to post it for me to believe it, then I don't know if that's necessarily the truth. Because if I'm really vibing with somebody, you ain't never gonna know until I'm married to them. That's just if I really care about you and I really care about our connection, I'm gonna protect it. I'm gonna make sure that this thing doesn't get outside influences, other people energy on it that don't belong there. Like, I'm gonna make sure that is protected because I care about it.
Yeah.
So to me, I think we get so caught up in the validation factor of things, and then we, now, and I feel for you. I understand how it can be walking through a divorce, and on the other side of you watching him have a whole new family with somebody else. But you're absolutely right. What you're talking about is like, I need to reframe my thinking. I need to stop thinking about this as I lost something and actually look at it like I gained something. I gained understanding of who I was actually with. I now know things I didn't know before. And this person hasn't healed. This is an unhealed person, a broken person that's about to break somebody else. And so now you have to focus your energy on being healed. And what does that require? For me, it was therapy every week. For me, it was working out and getting my fitness thing in full gear. For me, it was focusing on how I move and what businesses am I going to start? What are the things that I haven't tapped into that I need to tap into now? Now it's time to tap in and spiritually get connected with your creator and find your security, not with whether that man validates you or not, whether you validate you. And that doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, whether he chooses you tomorrow or not. At least you know you good with you and you like you, and we gonna be okay. And I think that that's where you have to focus on. If you keep focusing on that, and I think a lot, I'm talking a lot in this because I feel like I get a lot about this. We focus our energy on being validated by people that people are finicky. People are up and down. One day they feel great about you. Tomorrow they feel terrible about you. Today they feel great about you. Tomorrow they feel bad about you. They're going to have tons of opinions. You cannot rest your validation in the hands of a man. He's incapable of doing that. I don't care if you got the best man in the world. He still can't do it. So it's best for you to figure out, for me, it was my relationship with God. I'm secure with that. God doesn't change. I do. So I know that that love from him is always going to be consistent. He's always going to see me the same way. He's always going to be there for me. So my security rests in that, not in what I see. So I'm not so worried about what I see because I know what is unseen is eternal. So I think that you have to start focusing not on what you see, but start focusing on what's unseen. And that's what's actually going on with you, whether you realize it or not. That's a lot, but yeah. I know that's a lot. Okay. So anyway, let me get off that tangent. There's a lot of questions. So let me get to the next one. There's like 40 on here and you have like 8 minutes. Okay. So hold on. Are you bored yet?
No, we good. And we can keep going. We can go way past 8 minutes. Don't worry about that.
Okay. So, all right. I have a question for you. We'll read this question.
Go ahead.
So how did you get to becoming a relationship expert, like to where you are now, to where videos are going viral, you got a following?
It's a long story, so I'm gonna try to get the short version.
Give me the clip notes. Okay.
One, it was all God. I never thought in a million years I'd be doing this. My degree is in IT, so wow. Yeah, exactly. Never actually got the degree, but long story short, went through I wasn't into God like this before. All right. I was out there doing my thing, whatever. And then I kind of went through a period of time where what I call my wilderness period, where I kind of like I literally felt like God just completely broke me down to where I completely didn't know who I was. I didn't know what was going on. I had no fire. I wasn't doing anything. And then I kind of came out of that, understanding, okay, let me just ask God, what do I need to do next? So it was write a book. Then it was start a blog. Then it was, become certified as a coach. And I literally did not know. I just kept asking, what next? What next? I just kept doing every next step. And it just kept leading. Even me writing, my second book was God, Where's My Boaz? I never even wanted to write a book that was God-based, spiritual, whatever. Like I was trying to stay mainstream or whatever, but it came to me at a time where I was actually going to quit. Like ready to be like, I'm done with this, because people don't understand. Like, yeah, I'm successful now, but I had to go through years of being broke and struggling and to quit multiple times, and people get a real job and all this other nonsense. But every time I prayed, God was like, no, stay right there. You know what I'm saying? And he told me to write that book. And I remember just telling my editor, like, man, if it just makes a couple $100s a month, that's all. I'll be okay. Man, that completely like propelled everything. And then it just kept going from there. And so, yeah, that's the short story. But there's so many sub stories in there. It's a wild journey. It's a wild journey. Let's just say my peoples are Caribbean. I'm Haitian, so there was some other stuff on. Yeah. But yeah.
So is there truth to Haitian men being crazy? Like my mom was like, "Do never date a Haitian man."
I don't know about no Haitian men being crazy. I only know about the good stuff. I know that we are great fighters. All right, we are great
Only the good stuff. Got you. Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay.
We are very, very assertive men. That's what I know about. All that other stuff, I don't know nothing about that.
Okay. You don't
I know
remember?
about the
Okay, I got you. I didn't know that you knew anything about that. Okay, well, anyway. Okay, so okay, next question. How do you think you can detox yourself from people you know weren't good for you? You know it, but it hurts and you need a mental rehab.
So the key thing is, I think where we go wrong a lot of times is that we're focusing on the recent situation and we're overlooking the foundational issues that we've been ignoring all these years. The reason why you keep ending up with toxic people or dysfunctional people or broken relationships is because you weren't healed to begin with from something that happened before those people. It may have been childhood trauma. It may have been an early relationship in your life. Something, low self-esteem caused by other hurts and disappointments. Something sets you on this path. So when we try to just address what we recently went through, we don't really solve the problem. We just knock off that top layer that we're paying attention to. But there's a bunch of other layers. And what's going to happen is, even if you detox yourself from the recent person, you're going to find yourself in another situation with someone similar because your core are still there.
Yeah.
So you gotta, it's about healing from everything. It's about detoxing from everything. And part of the detoxing process is about getting everything off your chest. Like, you know, what I have found is that most people have not fully expressed themselves. Having an argument is not fully expressing yourself. Lashing out is not fully expressing yourself. We've had flashes and moments of expression, but we have not expressed ourselves, gotten everything out of our system. And when you don't get everything out of your system, things linger in your spirit. You know what I'm saying? And those emotions get trapped. And so people don't understand, a lot of physical ailments come from emotional stress. You can have someone who can work out, eat healthy, and on the surface, they look like they have it together. But if they are not healed and they have emotional stress, or they're engaging in a toxic relationship, that person can get cancer. And people will say, where did this cancer come from? It came from the emotional stress that they're holding on to. So it's important that we release everything. And that's why, like, I have a process where, you know, I have them write letters and get everything out. Because again, so many people have held back and not truly poured everything out of it. And I mean all the anger, all the resentment. What happens is it becomes so overwhelming to go back to that painful place to pull those emotions out. So people run from that.
That's
but
true.
Run from it if you want true healing and you truly want to break this negative cycle that you found yourself in.
Somebody, I think it's so interesting you said a letter. When I first went to therapy, I was terrible. That's why I have a show called I Was Hurt, because I was no good. Any man that met me in that time of my life, you was getting cheated on. I mean, it just was what it was. I get lied to, cheated on, betrayed. You get all that. You get not a good person, you know. But you know, after, like, when I first started with therapy, I was like, listen, you know, I have to really. I don't want to. This is not how I want to show up. She said, do you want to hold this? Do you want to keep this going? Do you want to? Is this how you want to show up? And I didn't want to show up as a runner, as a cheater, or any of those things. And one of the things I had to do was reconcile with my first relationship, the relationship that, you know, really started a lot of my hurt and pain and boiled into other things. It wasn't the reason, but it was beginning of them. And I had to reconcile that with myself. And it's not reconcile, but you said something, closure. There's a difference between, she said there was a difference between closure and reconciliation. And a lot of times people are looking for reconciliation and not closure. Closure is a one-person process. You don't need two people for closure. You just need to find closure within you. But if you're trying to reconcile, that's a whole different process, and you may never receive that. You may never have that conversation where you find peace and you are on the same page and you get the apology that you've been praying for. You know, you may never get that. You may never get it the way you desire to get it, but you can find closure within you. And I think it's interesting to talk about a letter, because I definitely wrote a 4-page letter to my first ex. I did.
That stuff is helpful. Absolutely.
Got it off my chest. That's good. So anyway, okay, so we're at 8, but I'll ask you just a couple more questions since I came on a little late. We'll go to 8:10, y'all. Keep going? Oh, okay.
Whatever you want to push it to, I'm down.
You down? All right, bet. Okay, so okay. Someone asked, is it worth staying married so that the kids have a mom and dad environment?
Hell
I got
no.
my answer.
Hell
Yeah.
no.
Me
Absolutely
too.
not. People, the mistake people make with the whole staying for the kids is that you're actually doing more harm and damage to the children staying together than separating and creating positive environments apart from each other. What the child needs more than anything is positive, loving environment. If you can achieve that together, okay, then I'm not going to argue it, even though I still don't. I don't believe in encouraging people who don't belong together to stay together. But if you try and you can create a positive, loving environment, fine. But staying when you cannot create a positive environment is defeating the purpose of staying. And even when people say, well, God don't like marriage. Yeah, well, God don't like you acting a damn fool in your marriage either. So how do you validate staying if you're going to now deny your partner of their needs? If you're going to now not be a good husband or a good wife, what are you serving? If anything, you are undermining God's union, because now you are a bad example that deters people from even wanting to be married. You now is a skewed perception of love and relationships, so now they become damaged and engage in damaged individuals. So you're doing way more harm than good. So even though, yes, love for it'd be great if people just married the right person and we didn't have to get divorces. But the unfortunate reality is that's not what happens. Most people marry wrong, and sometimes things have to be broken apart so that better things can be brought together. So yeah, no, don't stay together just for the sake of the kids. It's not going to work.
No, I would. So how, you said that certain things most people are burying wrong. How would you encourage somebody to marry right? And if they want to marry right this time?
So if they want to marry right, I think one, of course, healing from your past. You got to heal, because we kind of touched on it earlier, but we didn't go too deep into it. When you haven't healed, and this is especially more specifically true for women, when you haven't healed.
Yeah, I'm coming after you soon. Look, you keep coming after my gender, man. I'm having a problem, but I'm listening. Look, I'm listening. I'm open to you. I'm open. Okay.
When you haven't healed, remember I said you're likely to choose the wrong person, but it's also based in the fact that you're more likely going to choose the safe choice. All right? Because when you have not healed as a woman, you fear being too vulnerable. You fear that person who takes you to a level where you don't feel like you have emotional control. So you will choose the man who is good enough to be with, but you don't feel that level of vulnerability, or even what may feel like to some women as losing yourself. And the reason why it feels like losing yourself when you're dealing with that man who you're really into is because when you've been hurt, you've gotten accustomed to operating with a wall up. You've gotten accustomed to being guarded, and again, control. And that person that you become in that wall, or that bubble that you live in, when you that guy who you really feel something for, he pulls you out of that bubble. So you feel like you're losing yourself, but you're actually getting in touch with your real self. You're actually going back to your pre-hurt self. But you're not seeing that because, again, you're so used to the safety net around you, and he destroys that. So a woman who has not healed is more likely to run from the right man and to run to the wrong one. So it's very important that if someone wants to marry right, they have to heal first. That's the key. That's the number one key to making sure you end up in the right situation. Number two is just, of course, find your happiness first within yourself so
Yeah.
that you're not looking for a man or marriage or relationship to give you happiness. And
Right.
don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with wanting a relationship. There's nothing wrong with wanting marriage. If anything, I believe
Mm-hmm.
all women should be honest about their desire for it. I think a lot of women are shooting themselves in the foot by acting like they don't care and they don't need
That's
it,
good.
when
That's
in
good,
reality,
actually.
it's important to them. And what's
That's good.
happening is I go to these events and I'll have women 50 something, 60 something years old tell me how they spent the late 20s, 30s, 40s saying, I don't want a man, I don't care. And now they're looking around like, damn, I did want a man. And now I have to face the reality that I've set myself back. And now the
Yeah.
process is harder at this point. So I
That's
don't
good.
want women to run from their reality of what they desire. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't want them to put all their pursuit of happiness in that desire. Like, yo, I could want a certain level of finances, but I don't have to put my happiness in achieving that. I can be happy where I am, but still
Right.
desire that more in my life. So I think, they have to find the happiness, and then also learning how to tap into that intuition, that spirit, or consulting with God. Like, again, I think most people marry wrong because they don't ask God. Like, I always ask the question of women who have gotten married and divorced or getting a divorce, and men. And I always ask, did you ask God if you should marry this person? 90% will say they did not ask. 10% will say I asked, God told me no, and I still married this person. All right. So these aren't situations where people are saying, I asked God, he told me yes, and it still was a mess. I'm not saying that's never happened. I'm saying I never came across it. It's
Mm.
always been they either did not ask or they got a no and ignored the no. And for those, and then there's a group of them who say, well, I did ask God. But you know what they did? And this is not judging anyone because I understand we've all been there. They'll pray, and this is a random example, but they'll pray and say, okay, God, show me a sign if this man is for me.
Yeah.
Next day, a bird comes to their window, and I'm literally giving a story that I've been given before. A bird will come to their windowsill singing in a way that they never heard before. They say, oh my God, it's a sign from God. I need to be with this man. So basically, they're not receiving an answer within their spirit. They're looking for a sign to validate what they should do, which
Right.
is the wrong way to go about it. So when I say
Mm.
ask God, I mean ask God so you can receive an answer within your spirit of yes or no. Should you marry this person? And I think if more people did that, we would eliminate a huge amount of wrong marriages and wrong relationships.
I think you hit some really great points, but I have a question.
Okay.
I don't think, oh, well, I haven't run across. I feel like women are the bigger consumers of therapy, right? So I don't feel like there's men out here that are really pursuing healing like they should. I even feel like there should be more male examples of
Uh-huh.
men that are healing in healing appropriate ways. I think the only way men really know how to heal it, quote unquote, is to distract themselves with other women, sleeping
Yeah.
around, going out with their friends, work out more. Like they're not really healing. And so I feel like there's a lot, just like there's unhealed women, I feel like there's a lot of unhealed men because
Mhm.
women, are the biggest consumers of therapy. I mean, period. Coaching, love, that's just what it is. So what would
Yes.
you say to that?
All right. So I got two things to say to
Okay, I'm
that.
listening.
One, let me first agree that there are a lot of unhealed men. There's a lot of damaged men. They are not seeking the help that they need. I 100% agree with that. And it is something that we have to work on. I do think it's getting better. All right.
Okay.
I think what we have to understand is that men are not going to be uh, you're not going to see it. So basically, you'll go on my page and you'll see nothing but women in the comments. What y'all don't see is the men DMing me.
Mm.
The men asking for help, the men wanting to get a session. So I do get men. Hell, when I go out, I get approached by more men thanking me for my work than actually women.
Mm.
So it shows me that a lot of them are there more than we think, but they're more in the shadows, because I do think for some it's a pride thing. For some, it's just, you know, they're in their own little corner doing their thing. But I still would agree that we need more. The other thing, though, is, and this is not to devalue the efforts of women. However, a lot of women are the bigger consumers of therapy, but they're not actually healing. And to me, that's the big problem. It's okay, yes, you went on this healing retreat. Yes, you're going to this therapist. Yes, you did this. But how have you progressed in this process? Have you actually healed? What a lot of women are being taught is how to cope, how to manage, all right? They're not actually resolving anything. So what happens is they learn how to it's almost like becoming a functional alcoholic. They learn how to function with the issue. But then once they get into a strong enough relationship or something, there'll be a moment where they get triggered. And it's like, well, damn, like, I thought I was past this. No, you simply threw that issue in what I call your emotional closet. All right? You put it in the closet, you lock the door, you walked away, you said, I'm good. But you're not good. Because the next time something significant happens, you're going to try to go back to that closet, and then everything's going to come pouring out. And then you're going to realize, damn, I'm a mess. And then what happens is try to push everything back in the closet, lock the door again, and keep pushing forward. And one of the most best examples of this is a lot of women have to just look to their own mothers. All right? A lot of women, if they're honest, they see the issues with it. Their mothers are 50, 60, 80 years old, whatever years old, and they see that they're still holding on to that bitterness. They're still holding on to that anger. Even though their mother is functioning in life, there's still something there. And a lot of women and men have mommy issues, but don't address those mommy issues.
That's true.
Right?
That's
because
true.
society makes it easier to address daddy issues than it does to address mommy issues.
That's true.
So again,
that's true.
Back to your point is, yes, I do feel that women take more action on the surface, but both men and women aren't actually healing enough.
What do you think? Okay, if you're going to therapy and you're being taught to cope, what do you think needs to be different about that process? Like, how do you actually heal? Because yes, you're right. Therapy does teach you coping mechanisms, you know, but how do you, I know you have your program. How would you get somebody to a place of healing? What does that look like that's different?
All right. So I'm going to kind of give the overview. Okay. So one, and I think this first step, I think is always achieved in therapy anyway, is identifying the deeper issues. All right. So like I have a thing called the Who Hurt Me list, where you get a piece of paper, you write on there who hurt me, you ask yourself that question, and now everyone who comes to mind, write them on the paper. This is how we're going to start to identify what you've been holding on to. And a lot of times when you ask yourself that question, you're going to be surprised what may actually come to mind and what comes out on that list. All right. Because so many people have suppressed it for so long, they don't even recognize it's actually there. All right. Now, once we've identified the people who have hurt you, the situations that have hurt you, now we got to go to the next step of getting things off your chest. This is where the letter process comes in. You know what I'm saying? And again, where we have to let everything out. See, one of the problems with the letter process with other people's method, this is not to throw shade on anyone's method, but unfortunately, some people will tell you to write a letter. And what people do in that letter is trying to find the right way to express themselves in this letter. That does not achieve the goal of true emotional healing. All right? Because here's the thing. If deep inside of me, I really want to say, I hate you and I wish you were dead. Right or wrong, that's how I feel. That's how mad I am. Me writing a letter saying, you know, I just wish things were different, that doesn't achieve releasing that negative energy out of my system. I need to say, I hate you, I wish you were dead. I have to say exactly what I'm feeling. So a lot of people's letters don't get out the raw emotion. It doesn't get everything, so it doesn't truly detox them of everything that they're holding on to. So my is is about having a draft that gets everything out raw, and then we have a second draft that corrects it in a way that now someone could actually read it and receive what's being said. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Then we also have to move on to forgiveness, you know, and understanding, okay, we have to forgive people. And as we talked about earlier, it ain't about we gotta still engage with them and be in a relationship with them, but we have to embrace forgiveness, releasing that. But not just forgiving them, we gotta forgive ourselves. A lot of people's struggle is they have yet to forgive themselves. They keep beating themselves up. You know what I'm saying? Then we gotta practice new mindsets and change how we go about things. You know, the unfortunate reality is that in every profession, there are good and there are bad. All right.
Right.
And so there are good coaches and therapists, and there are bad coaches and therapists. And I've heard stories where it's clear the coach or the therapist is damaged themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, that's
so the
good.
damaged person cannot help you heal. So that's nothing. I just want to encourage anyone who's in the helping profession. It is imperative that you do healing work for yourself first.
Yeah.
Are in no position to be trying to guide someone.
Yeah.
What I've seen is the professional being triggered by
That's
what's
good.
going on in the client's life.
Transfers. You know? Yeah, transference.
And so now you're interjecting yourself into their situation, and so now you're giving them bad advice.
Right.
You know, so
that's good.
It's just, so again, you got to recognize the pain, the hurt. You got to get everything off your chest. You got to embrace forgiveness. You got to then practice new positive mindsets. And that, again, there's more details to it all, but that's the overview of how we heal rather than just cope and manage.
That's good. That's really good. Okay, I like that. Okay, well, anyway, I'm gonna give you one more question, and I'm gonna call it. Okay, so on social media, there's been a lot of talk of toxic masculinity versus masculinity. Okay, so I think it's tossed around a lot. You know, like even just the alpha and beta conversation, like all of that is being tossed around, thrown in a pot, and people are not necessarily understanding what is masculinity, what to actually expect from masculine or masculinity, or what that should look like, and versus toxic masculinity, which is a whole different spectrum that we throw a lot of people into. And I don't feel like that's fair. You know, just being the social worker I am. This is like, it's just not fair to just like, I don't feel like you should throw the term narcissism out or narcissist out, because it's overused. You overuse it, it doesn't have the same meaning. So what do you think about that with toxic masculinity versus masculinity? And
all right, so one, I don't believe in toxic masculinity. I don't believe there's
at all.
I believe that what is being labeled as toxic masculinity are actually damaged, hurt men. It's nothing masculine about that. So for example, if you see a man berating, or let me use something different. If you see a man being abusive towards a woman, right? Some people may say that he's being toxic, that's toxic masculinity. No, that is a damaged, insecure man who does not know how to manage his emotions. There is nothing masculine about a man who cannot manage his emotions. There is nothing masculine about a man who does not know how to have composure in the midst of a storm. There's nothing masculine about a man who reacts rather than processes and properly addresses and resolves a situation. So what you're seeing is not masculinity. It's far from it. So to label it toxic, no. If we start labeling anything as toxic masculinity, then where's the toxic femininity? There's no such thing. All right? It's just damaged people. That's it. And damaged people make everything look toxic. That once you are hurt, you have not healed, and you're projecting your negative energy onto different things, you now taint the image of anything that you profess you are.
Really good.
You see what I'm saying? So I think we again, I do think that some people have used the toxic masculinity because, again, there are people out there who want to destroy the masculine feminine dynamic. All right. I literally spoke at an event, I want to say 3-4 years ago, where I didn't know they were gonna talk like this, but on stage one of the guys was like, oh, you know, masculine and feminine is a social construct and we need to do away with both of them. That's what a lot of them really want. They want to do away with all they want. I'm not even gonna get too deep, but the bottom line is they're trying to eliminate it. But to me, masculine and feminine is not social constructs. They are biological facts. All right. Here's reality. If we take a woman right now and we start to inject testosterone in that woman, she will become more assertive, more aggressive. Her body will become stronger. Her libido will jump. All right. She will start to exhibit masculine traits. All right. If you start to pump a man with estrogen, it is a fact. He will become more emotional. His body will become softer. He will start to give off more feminine energy because the lifeblood of masculine and feminine is testosterone and estrogen, which is why if you dissect a man, we have naturally way higher testosterone and women have way higher estrogen. And when we see these imbalances in people, rather than saying, oh, it's because these things are just, no, again, not to get too deep, but we have so much in our world now that is contaminated. Our food, our water, the things that we have in our house that affect our hormones. So we're not addressing the core issue of testosterone, our hormone levels being off. They're not supposed to be. And that creates a problem. And then, of course, there's other influences and other things that are throwing everything off. But to get back to the original point, yes, I just think that, no, there is no toxic masculinity. But I do believe that a lot of men right now, unfortunately, are being led in the wrong direction in regards to masculinity. And they're not being given a proper example. Many want to put on the uniform of masculinity, but they're not actually masculine men yet. And they have not become who they need to become. And I think that does need to be addressed more and need to be discussed more. And it's the same way that I feel like, listen, a lot of women have become very detached from their feminine energy. You know what I'm saying? And they're walking more in masculine energy than they are in femininity. And it's contributing to why we're seeing even more problems in relationships in these worlds. It's not good for our society whatsoever. So there's a lot that needs to be corrected and addressed when it comes to this discussion.
I agree. Do you believe in alpha?
So here's the interesting thing.
I'm gonna leave. That's my last one. I ain't gonna hit you with nothing else. I promise.
Listen, you can ask all you want. I don't care. We got 5 more questions. But in regards to alpha, I do believe. So I'm someone who tries to stay true to definitions. All right.
Okay.
There is a specific definition for alpha. All right. Being the man who is the dominant one of the pack, the alpha man. When you actually dissect the definition and you understand that if we have a group of 10 men, all of them can't be alpha at that moment. There is one who will be the dominant man of the pack. He is the alpha man. He is the leader. All right. So I think that we may, as you mentioned, how we overuse certain terms.
We do.
I think that, yes, we are guilty of overusing the term alpha. And even I have overused the term alpha because I think it's a catchy phrase. What I've come to realize is my goal is not about making men become alpha. It's about making men tap into their masculine energy because everyone can be masculine. Every man can become a masculine man. You see what I'm saying? Everyone's not alpha. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? And even as an alpha man, you have to know when you have to take a step back. You feel me? In every situation, you can't be the leader in every situation. Sometimes you got to be second in command, third in command, whatever. That's a wise man. So to me, I want men to be masculine and wise. That's the main focus. But I ain't gonna lie, will I use the term alpha here and there? Yeah, because that's what people, they connect with that term. So it's easier using terms that people are accustomed to and they're used to. But I think the word's been abused and misunderstood, to be honest with you.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there.
If we're trying to be friends before having a relationship, then no, we don't need to be going on dates. That's not friendship. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the struggle people have with being friends first is that they don't